The night the king met the king. The boy in the back row was trying not to be seen. He'd pulled his collar up high and slumped down in his chair, but there was no hiding that shock of blonde hair or the way his leg bounced to every beat. Most folks at the Handy Theater that December night in 1956 were black folks who'd come to hear B.B. King play the blues. The few white faces scattered through the crowd stuck out like snow on a dirt road. But this wasn't just any white kid trying to blend in. This was Elvis Presley. And he had a secret. He was there to steal. Not money or equipment or anything tangible. He was there to steal whatever magic B.B. King had in his fingers. Whatever power made Lucille sing in ways that made grown men weep and women forget their troubles. Elvis had been hearing whispers for months about this guitar player from Mississippi who could make his instrument talk like a human voice. The whispers had started at Sun Records, where Sam Phillips would play B.B. King records, during breaks between recording sessions. "Listen to this," Sam would say, dropping the needle on 3 o'clock blues. "This is what I'm talking about when I say feeling." Elvis had listened, and something inside him had shifted. He'd grown up hearing country music, gospel, a little pop on the radio. But this was different. This was music that seemed to come from some deeper place, some well of experience that Elvis knew he didn't have access to yet. He'd been making his own records for almost 2 years now, causing a stir with his mix of country and rhythm and blues. But Elvis knew he was missing something. He had energy. He had looks. He had a voice that could make girls scream. But he didn't have whatever it was that made B.B. King's guitar sound like it was telling secrets. Tonight, he was going to find out if the whispers were true. The Handy Theater was packed beyond capacity. Folding chairs squeezed into every available space. The air was thick with cigarette smoke and anticipation. Elvis had paid his dollar at the door just like everyone else, though he'd noticed the ticket seller's double take when she saw his face. "You sure you in the right place, honey?" she'd asked, not unkindly. "Yes, ma'am," Elvis had replied. "I'm exactly where I need to be." B.B. King walked onto the small stage of the Handy Theater carrying Lucille, like she was made of glass and gold. The crowd erupted, but B.B. just nodded and sat down in his chair, adjusting his microphone with the calm of a man who'd done this 1,000 times before. Elvis leaned forward, studying every detail. B.B.'s hands as they checked Lucille's tuning, the way he adjusted his position in the chair until the guitar sat perfectly against his body, the small smile that crossed his face when he was satisfied with the setup. "Good evening, Memphis," B.B. said, his voice warm and conversational. "You all ready to hear some blues?" The crowd shouted back, but Elvis stayed quiet, studying B.B.'s hands as they found their position on Lucille's neck. He'd heard B.B. King records, sure, but this was different. This was live, unfiltered, immediate. B.B. started with 3 o'clock blues, and from the first note, Elvis understood why people traveled hundreds of miles to hear this man play. The opening was deceptively simple, just a single note, bent and held until it seemed to contain multitudes. But in that one note, Elvis heard longing, pain, hope, and something else he couldn't name. The note hung in the air like a question mark, and then B.B.'s voice came in to answer it. It wasn't just technique, though B.B.'s fingers moved across the strings with a precision that seemed almost impossible. It wasn't just tone, though Lucille's voice cut through the small theater like a knife through silk. It was something deeper, something that came from places Elvis had never been, but somehow recognized. B.B. King was having a conversation with his guitar, and the guitar was talking back. Elvis watched B.B.'s left hand, mesmerized by the way it moved along the fretboard. When B.B. played a high note, his face would tighten slightly as if he were pulling the sound out through sheer force of will. When he bent a string, his whole body seemed to lean into it, coaxing emotion from the metal. But it was B.B.'s right hand that really caught Elvis's attention. Sometimes B.B. would pluck the strings with his fingers, gentle and precise. Other times he would attack them with his thumb, creating a percussive snap that punctuated the melody. And sometimes he would let his hand hover just above the strings, creating a muted, scratchy sound that somehow added to the overall texture of the music. Every technique served the song, not the other way around. Elvis had been playing guitar since he was 11 years old. He'd learned chords from his mother, licks from radio, style from anyone who'd show him. He'd always focused on getting faster, cleaner, more impressive. He thought he understood what the instrument could do. He was wrong. When B.B. bent a string, it cried like a human voice. When he let a note ring out, it hung in the air like smoke from a church candle. When he played fast runs up and down the neck, each note was crystal clear, purposeful, necessary. But it was the spaces between the notes that taught Elvis the most. B.B. would play a phrase, then let Lucille rest while he sang, then bring the guitar back in to answer what his voice had just said. The guitar wasn't just accompaniment. It was conversation partner, confessor, and choir all at once. During Sweet 16, BB played a solo that made Elvis's jaw drop. Not because it was fast or technically complex, though it was both, but because it told a story. Elvis could hear the narrative arc in the way the melody climbed and fell, the way certain phrases repeated like a person returning to a painful memory, the way the whole thing built to a climax that felt like emotional release. Elvis found himself holding his breath during the quiet moments, waiting for BB's next musical statement. This wasn't just performance, this was teaching, though BB probably didn't know he had a student in the back row. Halfway through the second song, Sweet Little Angel, Elvis noticed something that made his chest tighten with recognition. BB King was nervous, not stage fright nervous. BB moved with the confidence of a man completely at home in front of an audience. But there was something else. A tension in his shoulders, a careful way he chose his words between songs. Elvis had felt it too, that weight of carrying something larger than yourself, the pressure of being good enough, important enough, worthy of the attention people were paying you. For all their differences, race, age, experience, they were both young men trying to figure out how to channel something bigger than themselves through 6 strings and amplified wood. The show lasted 90 minutes and Elvis absorbed every second. He watched BB's left-hand vibrato, the way he could make a single note shake with emotion. He studied the way BB's right hand picked the strings, sometimes gentle as a whisper, sometimes sharp as a slap. He memorized the way BB talked to the audience, natural and warm, like he was sitting in their living room instead of on a stage. When the last song ended and the crowd began to file out, Elvis stayed in his seat. He waited until the theater was nearly empty, until BB had packed Lucille away and was talking quietly with the venue manager about payment. That's when Elvis made his move. He approached the stage with his hands visible, moving slowly, respectfully. BB looked up from his guitar case and saw a nervous young white man in a leather jacket. "Excuse me, Mr. King," Elvis said, his voice quieter than usual. "I was wondering if I could ask you something." BB studied him for a moment. He'd noticed the kid during the show, seen him sitting perfectly still while everyone around him moved to the music, seen him watching with the intensity of someone trying to memorize everything. "You can ask," BB said. "Can't promise I'll answer." Elvis stepped closer to the stage. "I play guitar, been playing since I was 11, but tonight, listening to you play, I realized I don't know anything. You want lessons? I want to understand. How do you make it talk like that? How do you make people feel things just by bending a string?" BB King looked at this earnest young man and saw something familiar, the hunger for musical truth, the frustration of knowing there was more to learn but not knowing how to get there. "What's your name?" BB asked. Elvis Presley." BB's eyebrows raised slightly. He'd heard the name, seen it in the local papers. This was the kid who'd been causing a stir at Sun Records, the one who'd been mixing up country and rhythm and blues in ways that made some folks nervous and others excited. "You're that boy Sam Phillips has been working with." "Yes, sir. I heard your record. That's all, right?" "Interesting approach to Arthur Crudup's song." Elvis looked embarrassed. "I hope you don't mind. I know it's your style of music, and I'm just a white boy from Tupelo trying to—" "Music don't have color," BB interrupted gently. "Music is music. Question is, are you serious about it?" "More serious than anything I've ever done in my life." BB King made a decision that would change both their lives. "All right then. Come back here tomorrow night. Bring your guitar, we'll see what you've got." Elvis showed up the next evening 30 minutes early, guitar case in hand, looking like he was heading to church. The handy theater was empty except for a janitor mopping the floors. BB arrived at 8 o'clock sharp, carrying Lucille and a small amplifier. "Let me hear you play," BB said, setting up his equipment. Elvis plugged in his guitar and started playing "That's All Right," the song that had launched his recording career. It was good, energetic, different, but BB could hear what Tut was missing. "You're playing the notes," BB said when Elvis finished, "but you're not saying anything with them." "I don't understand." "Play that song again. But this time, before you start, I want you to think about something that hurts, something real. Don't tell me what it is, just hold it in your mind while you play." Elvis looked confused but nodded. He thought about his father, working double shifts to keep the family fed, about being too poor to afford the guitar lessons he'd always wanted, about feeling different, out of place, like he didn't quite fit anywhere. He played "That's All Right" again. This time, BB heard it. The pain underneath the energy, the longing beneath the rebellion, the human being underneath the performance. "Better," BB said. "Now let me show you something." For the next 2 hours, BB King gave Elvis Presley a masterclass in emotional expression through guitar. Not technique, Elvis had plenty of that. Feeling. The guitar don't care how fast you can play, BB explained, demonstrating a slow, soulful bend that seemed to contain entire conversations. It cares how much truth you can put into each note. He showed Elvis how to make a single note cry by varying the vibrato, how to create tension by leaving space, how to make the guitar respond to what he was singing, not just provide background noise. See, most guitar players think their job is to fill up all the empty space, BB continued, playing a simple phrase with deliberate pauses. But the empty space is just as important as the notes, maybe more important. That's where the listener gets to think, to feel, to understand what you're trying to tell them. Elvis nodded, but BB could see he didn't fully understand yet. Here's what I want you to try, BB said. Play me that opening lick from That's All Right, but I want you to think of it like you're telling someone a secret, something you've never told another living soul. Elvis tried, but his playing remained technical. Correct, but somehow hollow. Stop, BB said gently. You're still performing. I don't want performance right now. I want conversation. Imagine your guitar is your best friend, and you need to tell it something important. What would that sound like? Elvis closed his eyes and thought about the nights when he'd sit alone in his room, playing guitar and dreaming about a different life. About the embarrassment of wearing hand-me-down clothes to school. About the way his father's shoulders sagged after long days at work that barely paid enough to keep food on the table. He played the lick again, and this time BB heard something different. Better, BB said. I heard a little bit of you in there, but you're still holding back. Let me show you something. BB played a simple blues progression, but as his fingers moved across the strings, he began to talk. This note here, he said, bending a string on the 7th fret. This is me at 15 years old watching my mama work herself to death. Picking cotton. You hear that sadness? That's real sadness, not pretend sadness. He moved to another phrase. And this part here, this is me at 20. First time I played for white folks and they actually listened instead of just tolerating me. That's joy. But it's complicated joy, you understand? Happy but scared at the same time. Elvis was transfixed. BB wasn't just playing music. He was sharing his life story through 6 strings. Now you try, BB said. Tell me something true with that guitar. Elvis took a deep breath and thought about his first recording session at Sun Records. The nervousness, the excitement, the feeling that his whole future might depend on the next few minutes. He played a simple melody, but this time he put his whole heart into it. The uncertainty, the hope, the fear, it was all there in the way he attacked the strings, in the timing of his phrases, in the spaces he left between notes. BB smiled. Now you're talking. They worked through several exercises that night. BB taught Elvis how to use vibrato to express different emotions, a fast, nervous shake for anxiety, a slow, wide wobble for deep sadness, a tight, controlled vibration for anger. He showed him how to use dynamics, how a note played softly could be more powerful than one played loud. He demonstrated how to make the guitar breathe, how to give each phrase room to settle before moving on to the next one. Music is like language, BB explained. You wouldn't run all your words together when you're talking to someone, would you? Same thing with guitar. Each phrase needs to make sense on its own before you move to the next one. But perhaps most importantly, BB taught Elvis how to listen. When you're playing with other people, BB said, your job isn't to prove how good you are. Your job is to make the whole thing sound better. Sometimes that means playing less, not more. Sometimes it means leaving space for the other person to shine. Elvis practiced this concept by playing rhythm while BB soloed, then switching roles. At first, Elvis's accompaniment was too busy, too eager to impress. But gradually, under BB's patient guidance, he learned to support rather than compete. That's it, BB said when Elvis finally found the right balance. You're not trying to steal the spotlight. You're trying to make me sound better. And when it's your turn to solo, I'll do the same for you. As the evening wore on, Elvis began to understand that what BB was teaching him went far beyond guitar technique. It was about respect for the music, for other musicians, for the audience, and for the responsibility that came with the ability to move people through sound. When you get up on stage, BB said as they prepared to pack up their guitars, people are giving you their time, their attention, their money. They're trusting you to give them something valuable in return. That's not a responsibility you take lightly. What if I don't have anything valuable to give? Elvis asked. BB looked at him seriously. Then you better figure out what you do have to give, and you better make sure it's honest. People can tell when you're faking it. They might not know exactly what's wrong, but they'll know something ain't right. They worked on 3 songs that night. That's All Right, Blue Moon of Kentucky, and a slow blues that BB taught Elvis from scratch. With each song, Elvis got closer to understanding what BB was trying to show him. It wasn't about the notes. It was about the spaces between them, the way you approach them, the reason you chose them. Music is conversation, BB said as they packed up their guitars. But most people only know how to make statements. They play at people, not to them. You want to be a real musician, you learn to listen to what the other person is saying back. The audience? The audience, your band, your guitar, even the silence, especially the silence. Elvis carried that lesson with him for the rest of his career. In every recording session, every live performance, every quiet moment alone with his guitar, he remembered what B.B. King had taught him in that empty theater. But the real gift wasn't musical. It was personal. B.B. had taken a nervous young white man seriously, had treated his questions with respect instead of dismissal, had shared not just technique, but philosophy, not just skill, but wisdom. Years later, when Elvis was selling millions of records and filling stadiums around the world, he would always cite B.B. King as his most important influence. Not because B.B. had taught him how to play guitar. Elvis could already do that. Because B.B. had taught him how to mean something with it. The two men stayed in touch for the rest of their lives. B.B. would come to Elvis's shows when he was in town. Elvis would send B.B. records, guitars, notes of encouragement during difficult times. But that night in December 1956, in an empty theater in Memphis, what passed between them was simpler and more profound than friendship. It was the recognition that music, real music, comes from the same place in everyone. That truth is truth, regardless of who speaks it. That talent deserves respect, no matter what color skin it comes wrapped in. Elvis Presley had come to steal B.B. King's secrets. What he stole instead was an understanding of what those secrets were for. Not to impress people or make money or become famous. To connect, to communicate, to say things with 6 strings that couldn't be said any other way. The boy in the back row had learned to see, and in learning to see, he'd learned to be seen.